It started with a gold-embossed letter tucked quietly inside a stack of routine diplomatic mail. "From the office of the President of France," read the header, more royal decree than friendly memo. In the humid stillness of the Ouagadougou palace, Ibrahim Traoré read it alone, seated beneath a rattling ceiling fan. The letter was short, an official request for a private economic dialogue in Paris. No press, no advisors, just him and Emmanuel Macron. To Traoré's closest circle, this was more threat than honor. Macron's envoys had already visited twice this month, pressing him to restore French mining rights, reopen military corridors, and drop negotiations with Moscow and Beijing. He had refused them politely. Apparently, Paris now preferred to handle disobedience face to face. Traoré laid the letter on his mahogany desk. Outside, children played football on the dusty palace lawn. Their laughter cut through his thoughts like sunlight through a storm. He knew what France wanted: compliance, control, a new Sankara they could leash or bury. But Ibrahim Traoré had survived worse than velvet threats in silk envelopes. And so, in the cool dawn before his flight, he murmured to his lone guard, "Tell my people I will return. With France's respect or its fury, Africa bows no more." The jet touched down at Charles de Gaulle under a gray winter sky. France's grand welcome was all polished marble and polite smiles. But Traoré could smell the fear beneath the cologne. At the Élysée Palace gates, Macron himself greeted him, a photographer's dream. The young African lion beside Europe's centrist king. They shook hands for the cameras, their teeth showing the same polite grin, their eyes saying something entirely different. Inside, the room turned colder. Macron wasted no time. "Ibrahim, my friend," he began smoothly, slicing fresh bread with a butter knife as if he were cutting borders on a map. "France wants partnership, stability. We must guide West Africa away from reckless adventures with Moscow or Beijing. You understand?" Traoré did not flinch. "Guide or control?" he asked, voice calm as a lion's heartbeat before a hunt. Macron's smile stiffened. "You misread us. France is your ally. But even an ally must be obeyed if you wish for prosperity." There it was, the leash offered openly. Traoré could sign away minerals, allow French bases to stay, keep the old ways alive, and in return, he would get glittering words on Western news and carefully rationed aid. He looked out the tall windows at Paris, a city built on gold and sweat stolen long ago from people like him. Traoré leaned forward just enough for the room to feel the shift. "France forgets," he said softly, "that we have learned to read between smiles. Africa is done obeying. From now on, we negotiate, or we walk alone." For the first time that day, Macron's hands stopped moving. Macron's advisors huddled in side rooms lined with oil paintings of dead emperors. They whispered in tight knots, glancing at closed doors. Traoré's defiance had ruined the script, the quiet handshake, the hidden clauses, the polite press release crowning France as Africa's patron once more. Now, Paris had a problem. A young African president refusing the leash on live cameras in the capital of colonial memory. Some suggested charm, a new trade package, scholarships, flattery. Others, darker minds, whispered old tactics, leaks, bribes, planted scandals. A few hissed about accidents that looked like fate. In a private antechamber, Traoré's own aides read the tension in every gilded corridor. Maurice Sankara, now his national security advisor, once his rival, sat beside him, back straight, eyes scanning for treachery. "Do you feel it?" Sankara murmured in Mossy. "They wish to break you here, where the ghosts of kings watch, and our own traitors still sip French wine." Traoré answered without looking away from the courtyard fountain, where pigeons splashed as if Parisian intrigue meant nothing. "They can break me, Maurice," he said, voice low and certain. "But they can't break Africa again, not while I breathe." A knock at the chamber door. An advisor poked his head in. "President Macron requests a more private dinner tonight. Just the two of you. No press." Sankara's eyes narrowed. "They're done smiling, Ibrahim. Be ready." Traoré closed his file of draft mining contracts, unsold, unsigned. He rose from his chair, a lion pacing marble where once only lambs had walked. The private salon inside the Élysée smelled of old cognac and polished betrayal. Only one round table, 2 crystal glasses, and guards who pretended not to listen through the thick doors. Macron poured the wine himself, the practiced host masking a predator's nerves. Traoré did not touch the glass. "Ibrahim," Macron began, this time no cameras, no audience, just power stripped bare. "You are young, idealistic, but you are not the first. Africa loves heroes, but heroes die poor and their nations stay poor. Let us make you wise instead." Traoré's laugh was a single breath, more pity than humor. "You offer me a bribe to abandon my people's future, wrapped in silver words." Macron's eyes hardened, a flicker of the imperial ghost behind the banker's face. "France will not allow Burkina Faso to become another chess piece for Moscow or Beijing. If you push us out, you push Europe out. You risk everything, your army, your projects, even your life." For a heartbeat, silence. The chandelier above them creaked softly, as if shifting under unseen weight. Then Traoré leaned in, voice so low the walls themselves strained to hear. "Let them come. Russia, China, even France again. We choose our friends now, not our masters." Macron's fingers drummed the table, each tap a silent threat. "You will regret this. One day, your own cabinet will regret this for you." Traoré stood. He did not bother with polite farewells. In the hallway, Sankara waited, reading his face like an old soldier reading the sky before a storm. "They will not forgive you," Sankara said. Traoré walked on, unbothered. "I don't need their forgiveness, only my people's trust." The presidential jet lifted off into the Paris night, the city of lights shrinking beneath its steel wings, a beautiful cage he had left unlocked. Back in Ouagadougou, news of the dinner spread like dry grass fire. Anonymous leaks to Western press painted Traoré as reckless, anti-democratic, a man steering Burkina Faso into Moscow's claws. Some even called him a dictator in the making. By the time his wheels touched African soil, foreign diplomats were already dialing his ministers. Promises, threats, soft whispers that the president was naive, that they, the old guard, must protect the nation from his dangerous pride. Inside the palace, Sankara slammed a folder down on Traoré's desk. "4 of your senior advisors met secretly with the French envoy last night, while you were fighting for this country's dignity alone in Paris." Traoré flipped through the blurry photos. Familiar faces, polished shoes, betraying eyes. "They want a deal," Sankara said bitterly. "They want to sign away your stand, piece by piece, before you even unpack your bag." Traoré's hand rested on the folder, calm and immovable. "They forgot something, Maurice," he said, voice calm as thunder before it strikes. "They did not elect them. They elected me." Outside his window, the same dusty courtyard where his father once sold yams was now a fortress where Africa's future was deciding whether to kneel or roar. Night draped the Ouagadougou palace in uneasy silence, but inside, voices hissed behind closed doors. 3 ministers, once loyal, now whispered in a side wing with a French attaché who wore too much cologne and too wide a smile. They spoke of stability, responsibility, and saving the country from Traoré's stubbornness. What they meant was old contracts restored, foreign bases reopened, and personal bank accounts growing fat again under the polite gaze of Paris. Meanwhile, Maurice Sankara stalked the palace corridors like a ghost from the revolution's past, ears open, eyes sharper than any camera. He knew these men. He had once taught them how power hides inside soft words. Now he watched them sell it for crumbs. At dawn, Traoré summoned the 3 ministers to the main hall. He sat alone on the grand chair, no generals, no aides, just him and the echo of their footsteps on marble. "You conspired," he said, voice soft enough to unsettle them more than any roar could. One stammered, "Mr. President, we only sought to hand my country back on a silver tray." Traoré cut in, eyes burning steady. "You will resign by sunset, or Burkina Faso will learn what loyalty costs when paid in foreign coins." Outside the hall, Sankara leaned against a column, arms folded, listening. He did not smile. Trust was still fragile between him and Traoré. But in that moment, he saw the ghost of Sankara's dream burning behind this young man's eyes. Africa was awake, and its snakes would shed skin or be hunted in daylight. By noon, the palace courtyard overflowed with people. Students skipping lectures, mothers carrying children on their backs, elders leaning on canes but refusing to miss history in the making. They had heard the rumors that foreign powers were twisting arms, that traitors had gathered in secret, that their president had said no, and they had come to see if he would say it to their faces too. Under a burning Sahel sun, Traoré stepped onto the marble steps where once Sankara had sworn to bury corruption in shallow graves. Maurice Sankara stood behind him, a silent reminder that revolutions do not die when men do. "My people," Traoré began, voice carrying not just across stone walls, but into radios and phones humming in dusty villages 100 miles away. "Some believe a leader must kneel to be safe. Some believe Africa's soul is for sale if the buyer smiles and pays in foreign coin. Some forget we have memory, and memory does not forgive chains." The crowd roared once, a wave of raw faith rolling through the courtyard. "I have seen Paris. I have seen the handshake that hides a knife. I have seen ministers who say they love you but love your gold more." He paused. "Let them breathe the truth in. I stand here to promise you, no power east or west will own this land again. And if I must fall to keep that promise, so be it, but this flag will not." Mothers wept. Students lifted their phones, streaming every word. Deep inside a European capital, an ambassador's hand trembled over his keyboard, reporting back that Africa's lion was not alone. The speech lit fires from Ouagadougou to the dusty borders, where old colonial roads still wound through half-forgotten villages. For the people, it was hope reborn. For those who profited from silence, it was a threat too loud to ignore. That night, inside the royal residence's grand dining hall, Traoré's meal arrived under the watchful eyes of loyal guards. No foreign chef, no imported ingredients, only food from the palace's own farm, prepared by trusted hands. Yet treachery has many faces. A nervous aide, a single vial slipped into a pot at the last moment, a coin heavier than loyalty. Traoré sat with Sankara and two generals. They spoke of reshaping mining laws, expelling the last foreign soldiers. They planned schools, not bases, seeds, not bullets. He lifted his spoon, took a single bite, and the world tilted sideways, a burn in his throat, a firestorm in his chest. His vision fractured like glass under a boot heel. Sankara was on his feet in a heartbeat. "Guards, lock every door! No one leaves, no one breathes until we know!" Traoré's lips moved, but no sound came, just a hoarse whisper. "Tell them, Africa bows to none." Then darkness dragged him down, even as his people lit candles in streets they refused to surrender to fear. All night the palace turned into a fortress and a courtroom at once. Sankara commanded the lockdown, like the old intelligence wolf he once was. No phone left unchecked, no kitchen untouched, no servant spared a question. Outside, crowds gathered at the gates, candles flickering in hands hardened by poverty but unbent by fear. They chanted softly, children on shoulders, "Wake up, Ibrahim! Wake up, our lion!" Inside, the truth rotted in a trembling man's throat. A junior aide, barely 25, paid more than his father's farm had ever earned, knelt before Sankara in the marble hall. I didn't know it would kill him," he sobbed. "They said, just make him sick, scare him to sign. France, the embassy, the old ministers, they promised." Sankara silenced him with a glance sharp enough to peel skin. "France promised you silver. I promise you a rope. The confession cracked across the palace radio like thunder. The people heard. The army heard. Even Paris heard, through trembling ambassadors drafting hasty denials. Meanwhile, in the hospital wing, draped in red-green gold, Traoré's body fought its silent war. Tubes snaked into his veins. Monitors blinked prayers in electric code. His fingers twitched once, twice. Sankara sat at his side, back straight as the rifle he'd carried decades ago. "You dragged me back from exile for this, boy," he whispered gruffly, voice betraying no emotion. "Now fight back. Burkina Faso fights back. Wake up and roar." Outside, tens of thousands waited, ready to roar for him if he couldn't. Dawn cracked over Ouagadougou like a promise kept. The streets outside the palace overflowed. Women in colorful headscarves, men waving the red-green-gold flag, children perched on shoulders chanting a single name. Traoré, Traoré, Traoré. Inside the guarded hospital wing, Sankara sat motionless at the foot of the bed, eyes fixed on the slow, steady rise of Traoré's chest. Then, a cough, a ragged breath, fingers clenched around the bedsheet like a soldier gripping a rifle. Sankara leaned in, voice low but iron hard. "Welcome back, Mr. President. France sends its regards." Traoré's cracked lips twisted into something halfway between a smile and a snarl. "Tell them, Africa sends mine." Within hours, he was on the palace balcony, pale but unbowed, his right arm raised high before a sea of humanity. The roar that answered him shook the palace walls, an entire nation reminding itself it would never kneel again. Traoré spoke only a few words, his voice raw but thunderous through the microphones and 1,000 live streams. "They poisoned my body. They will never poison my people's courage. We stand free. We stand united. Let the world watch. Africa answers to no one but Africa." Down below, the chants became a drumbeat, echoing from the capital to the tiniest village where radios crackled the same message. In a world where deals are signed behind closed doors and power is sold for silence, one man stood up and said, "Enough." Ibrahim Traoré faced threats, betrayal, and poison. Yet his voice still echoes across Africa today. We bow to none. As you watch this story, remember, freedom isn't given, it's earned every single day by those brave enough to face the storm and roar back. If you believe in truth, courage, and a free Africa, share this story, leave your voice in the comments, and never stop asking who really holds the power.